Hello,
What's up, guys?
Good evening.
Owen.
Well, we're
Good.
live. I'm a little not here right now in my mind, so
Well, where's Tate?
I have no idea.
Right on.
No clue
Good
anymore,
evening,
man.
Emily. Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I know about you, and you're probably like, "Who's this guy?" But yeah, it's cool to be on here with you. And Tate, what's up, buddy?
Oh, nothing's changed since the last time you saw me a few weeks ago, so
You survived.
yeah, I made it back alive.
Right on. That's good to know, man. Good to see you. And yeah, I'm excited, dude. I was wondering what this was going to be about, and you said, "All right, we're going to do the PG thing, 57th anniversary." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in."
Yeah, this was very last minute, so I was like, hey, let's just do it.
It's all good. That's some of the best ways to do things. I think just kind of freestyle it, boom. And I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad Emily showed up, and yeah, I don't know if you know Tate, but I just recently about an hour ago premiered uh, some of the PG footage. When we went down to the site, so that was pretty cool. Some people showed up to the premiere there. It was a good time. But yeah, you were on there, Tate, so you might want to check that out later.
Oh, I
Dude,
definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, send
it's so
her
fun
send her
being
a
up
link,
there.
Tate.
So you posted some new footage up there. I'm still working on my footage.
Oh yeah.
I haven't even like begun to do what I need to do to edit. So I got a road ahead of me.
That's always
Yeah,
the
no, I
hard
bet.
part.
Editing
Oh yeah,
sucks. It really does.
yeah, and I work. I mean, I don't know how you guys. How I'm sure everyone works differently. But yeah, I kind of do things my way, and just learning stuff along the way and applying that. And like Tate taught me this time around on my iPhone that I could try recording at 30 frames per second using the HD, I believe, and that made a difference. Got a
Uh,
some compliments.
if you film in 4K with 30 frames per second, that really does
Okay,
help.
4K. Yeah, got it. Yep.
Nice.
So yeah, so I was switching back and forth, trying both out, and just using a lot of my little gadgets that I've gotten, trying to get some drone time in too, because I definitely want to step up and get a drone and stuff, and yeah, just having fun with the toys.
Heck yeah, dude. Um, well, since we're all here, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? Emily, why don't you start first?
Sure. I'm Emily from the Forest Fleur, and I am a Sasquatch researcher grounded in science. So I focus on hard physical evidence, and I believe Sasquatch is a biological animal. I believe it's a species of ape that is probably very close to human. Humans are apes too, so it's probably a hominoid of some sort in my mind. And I just love researching both in the book and out in the field.
Awesome. I like all that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
um,
good, very good introduction.
Glenn, it's your turn,
Yeah,
man. Follow that
yeah.
up.
Well, you're calling me Glenn, so yeah, first name Glenn, and I go by Brown Dwarf on online, and yeah, just enthusiast, experiencer, and just yeah, got bit by the Bigfoot bug a few years back, and just haven't snapped out of it, and I just really love being in the field as well and doing the armchair stuff, and like we are talking, editing videos and footage and checking out other people's footage and stuff, and so yeah.
Armchair is a good way to put it. I think we all kind of started as armchair researchers at some point or another.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Um,
Definitely.
and
I think you
it's just
have to.
yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, that's I think that's where everybody should start out, not just jumping into the field immediately and then you're just overwhelmed. Kind of build up a knowledge of the subject and kind of a basic what to do in the field, and then kind of go from there. So
Mhm.
I think I think you guys are great people in that field, showing a lot of ways to do the right thing. So that's pretty awesome. I'm glad
Back
you guys are
at
here
you,
tonight.
Kate.
Wait, say that again.
Back at you.
I'm just a person. I'm a man just like you.
He's just Tate.
Oh
Yeah,
my
no, I
god.
think it's we got definitely well, I guess it could go everything kind of goes both ways, right? But an advantage with the internet and some of the tech that we got now, we got these phones and once again all these other little gadgets that keep coming out every year and stuff that I think are kind of helping in the field and stuff. But yeah, if you think back to like the Four Horsemen and stuff, they didn't have no internet and stuff like that, so they had to be pretty much in the field. But there were some books around, I think, and some of them wrote books and stuff like that, so there was some literature. But yeah, no, I think it's definitely a different world and a different game now with the internet for sure.
Yeah. I
100%.
think maybe there are like more hoaxers nowadays too. So back when the pioneers were collecting stories, right? They could probably hear a story from someone and it probably was very credible. Whereas, nowadays you really have to vet through those sighting reports because everybody wants a piece of this.
Yeah, it's true.
Agreed.
Everybody wants kind of like their 10 minutes of fame, I guess.
Yeah.
What's
I see.
funny is it makes me wonder, like, if the Four Horsemen, if they were able to get along because they hated each other, maybe they would have pulled more evidence out of Bluff Creek. Who knows?
Yeah, I
I
think
think
so. If yeah, there was a little more unity and collaboration, there probably would have been a little more stuff. But Emily, you're gonna say something, and I was gonna say Central Florida Bigfoot in the house. Salute.
Yep.
Yeah, I think no, I agree with you there. I think the camaraderie and the collaboration that happens with people like us, right? That's really important in this field. And I think a lot of people who were researching at the time of the Horsemen, they sort of took their evidence and, sort of kept a lot of it to themselves. And, they wanted to, they didn't want to give anyone else credit, right? But we all learn from each other. So it's really important to give credit where credit is due.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they did. They definitely did a lot for the subject. That's undeniable. I mean, if it wasn't for Bob Titmus, you probably wouldn't have those cool tracks and you got just a bunch of other people that were involved in everything. And obviously, this is the 57th anniversary of the Patterson Gimlin film, 57 years. So we're talking about that tonight, which kind of brings me to a question I want to ask both of you guys. What does the Patterson Gimlin film mean to you as a Bigfoot enthusiast, researcher, whatever you want to call yourselves? What does it mean to you? Glenn, you can take this one first.
Right on. So I think it really impacted me because I seen it as a youth. I remember watching it when I was really young, and at the time there was these movies. I don't remember if you, I don't know if you remember the like Faces of Death movies and stuff. You ever
Nope.
heard of those? No, yeah, it tastes like,
No.
oh, I didn't watch that stuff. Well, people out there might know. There's these like gruesome movie, these weird movies, or like in the cult section, and they just showed all this gory stuff. And I remember just hearing about these films and trying to get my hands on them and watch them. Finally, I did, and I remember it was, I don't know if it was in one of those, but I had all these weird videos, and in one of those videos they had the Patterson footage, and I just remember my mom telling me that that's a Sasquatch, and never forgot it since then. But I had no idea that had happened in Northern California, and I always felt it was real. Even as a kid, I never like really doubted it, and I had no idea it was female. But then moving fast forward, I ended up moving to Humboldt County, which is right pretty much there. Technically we're finding out that it's might be in Del Norte County that the Patterson site is in, and there's several counties in the area. You get Trinity and Siskiyou also, but Humboldt seems to take the cake for the sighting, and so being, living there a long time and then finding out that that all happened there was just like, wow, it really impacted me then also. So yeah, it just means a lot to me.
Amazing. That's awesome.
What about you, Emily?
I would say that the PG film is important to me because she is female. Patty has breasts. And, not only am I a female, which I think is cool that there's a female Sasquatch on film, but I think that it's really important because it sort of teaches people that there is a breeding species. So when I was developing my logo for the Forest Fleur, I modeled it off of the PG film creature, and I gave the logo breasts on purpose because most people, when they think of Sasquatch, they think of one single Sasquatch like Santa or the Easter Bunny, but Sasquatch is a species. So when people see my logo and they see the breasts on the creature, or I show them a picture of the PG film and I explain that she was a female, people start to think to themselves, oh, wait, this isn't just one male Sasquatch. If there's a female, then it must be a species and there must be more of them. And so I think the PG film really got people thinking about the fact that this is a breeding population instead of just one wild man, terrorizing an area. I think it's sort of opened people's eyes to the fact that, this is an undiscovered species and there's more to it than just a legend.
I like that, and kind of bringing up a point. It is a female in the film that we see. I mean, do you think if Roger and Bob were going to fake a video, do you think they would go to that much forethought and make a costume a female costume? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I don't think so. It was a big surprise to me when it was brought to my attention that it was a female, because I had never noticed it, or it never crossed my mind to think. Yeah, you think it's like, yeah, always like a male, and then like even nowadays we kind of refer to him as a lot of times you'll say Bigfoot when we mean uh many of them, and but yeah, no, it was just I don't know, lost myself there. Bring me back, Tate.
Just kind of thinking like, if why did Roger if the Patterson Gimlin film was fake, why would they make a female
Oh,
costume? Yeah,
yeah,
like,
no, that's definitely. And then when was it? Was it MK who brought that to everyone's attention, or who was
I
it that
think it
pointed
was
that out
pretty. I think it was like pretty well known the day they
before that?
showed the film. Yeah,
Okay, all right, right on that. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't. I just learned till way later. But they must have known that. Obviously there was more than one, because even up at the construction site incident, there was multiple size tracks, I believe, right? So.
there was different sizes of tracks at the Jerry Crew site in '58.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think like it doesn't seem like Sasquatch live in groups of 20 or 30, but it definitely seems like they travel maybe sometimes in groups of like 2 to 4, which is very interesting because that aligns with like gibbons and other apes. But I don't know. I think in terms of the PG film potentially being hoaxed, any person who's brought that theory to my attention has never been able to provide any sort of proof that the costume was purchased or made or something like that. And you got to think about it this way. And I'm pretty sure Bill Munns is the one who says this. If they were able to create a costume that good, they would make so much more money selling it off to Hollywood than, just playing that film in small little local theaters.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm trying to. Was it John Chambers? Somebody asked him like, "Hey, were you get with the guy that made the costume in the PG film?" And he said no. And for people who don't know who John Chambers is, he was one of the guys responsible for creating the makeup and special effects for Planet of the Apes in the '60s. So, and those movies won awards for like really good costume design. And another one I think Bill Munns brings out in the presentation is 2001: The Space Odyssey, there's an ape scene in that one. And apparently, that one got an award too for was it special effects or costume, whatever it is. But yeah, it's just crazy that in 57 years they can't still replicate a costume that comes close to what we see in the Patterson Gimlin film at all. That's mind-boggling.
Oh yeah. Well, come on, Tate. Tell us, you know something. You're Heronimus.
I plead the fifth.
Maybe Tate, maybe you could explain that for people who actually don't know about Bob Heronimus.
Oh, Bob Heronimus. So, okay, I'll just put it. I'm just going to say this. I'm not related at all. There's no relation. Completely different spelling. But the powers of that may be beyond my control things. I can't. Kit Morrow always says I'm his grandson or nephew or whatever. It always switches. But Bob Heronimus was a guy who claimed to wear the costume, in air quotes, costume that Roger Patterson paid him was $100, I think, to wear it. But that was never true. Because Bob Heronimus said that Philip Morris was the guy who created the costume that he sold to Roger for Bob to use. But again, that did not happen. One of my favorite podcasts, Astonishing Legends, has a 6-part deep dive on the Patterson Gimlin film. When it comes out, the film camera, the camera itself, the players involved, right? Being Bob Heronimus, Al Diatley, Philip Morris, all this. There's a huge deep dive. I'm going to link that in the show notes, so people should definitely check that out. That's a fun listen. If you have a couple days to just go down a PGF wormhole, if you will. But yes, Bob Heronimus did not wear any costume. He was not in the footage. What do you guys think of Bob Heronimus? I mean, do you think he could be? Is there a possibility?
No, he just got he. I don't know. I'm thinking he just had a what do they call it? Clout chase.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing
But
too is that,
uh,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go for it. You got it.
Well, the footprints that were found at the Patterson Gimlin site have mid-tarsal breaks, which indicates midfoot flexibility. And that anatomical feature wouldn't be discovered for another 30 years and connected with other hominoids and apes. So right then and there, it's not hoaxed. Those footprints, at least, are not hoaxed.
No, they're
Yeah.
not. And that's funny because when Ron Reed and I were at in Oregon a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at the Patterson Gimlin tracks, and I'm thinking man, if it wasn't for Bob Titmus casting the Imperfect Tracks, there would still be a lot more room for discussion on the PG film being hoaxed because Roger wanted to cast only the perfect tracks, and a perfect track can be faked.
Yeah.
But what Bob Titmus was, being an expert tracker and hunter and stuff like that, he casted the Imperfect Tracks, which shows those anatomical features like the mid-tarsal break and how the foot interacts with the ground. And I was like, man, that puts more validity for the film being real than if it wasn't for those tracks. In a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Also going back to Bob Heronimus, what is it that him and Gimlin are neighbors, right? Up in Washington or something like that?
They were neighbors before 67, I think, and I know they were neighbors at 67, and they're still neighbors to this day.
Right.
No way.
Yeah, and actually, this is true. The pack horses that Roger and Bob were using were Bob Heronimus's.
Sounds like there may have been a little jealousy there, and maybe he wanted to get in on the action.
I think that's what it was. I really do. I think that's what it was, honestly. And I'm gonna.
And while we're on that, I don't know. Excuse me, if you know. I think Bobo recently had shared a story. He was up that way and drove by Bob's Heronimus, is I guess both of them since they're neighbors, but and he was outside and I don't know, he might have said something.
Oh God.
Anyway, Yeah, you can only
I'm gonna.
imagine, right? Bobo.
So I do have like some 3D scans. I'm gonna try and see if they play here. Let's
Right
see.
on.
Aha! I do. I have it. So this is a 3D scan I took at
Oh, that's awesome.
the China Flat Museum in Willow Creek.
So
So
smart of you to do that.
I think Glenn, you were there when I scanned this one. This was original, I believe, because they had some
Yeah,
original on display, and then they had a
some
lot of the
replicas.
originals locked up in a drawer. And
Yeah, I was gonna mention, sorry, Tate, that yeah, since we're talking about tracks and feet and stuff, that we got to actually interact recently with some tracks up there. So yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I'm showing a couple of videos of the tracks that we got to. Hopefully, I didn't play this one already.
Could
But
you? I wonder if you could 3D print the 3D scan.
I don't know. I want to say you can't. I think you
Probably
have to have
not.
something a little more advanced than an iPhone, because this is like a 3D scan from an iPhone.
Mm,
So, and this is kind of on the fly. This is actually on the desk drawer thing that all the tracks are in.
that's so crazy that they just have this. It's like this little museum in the middle of nowhere, right? And then they just have this whole collection of original cats.
It's
It's
insane.
awesome.
And what's even funnier is most of the museum is like just guns and old antique stuff.
Yeah, and
So
you want to hear something even funnier? I lived in different parts of Humboldt County, and for a while, I was living and working in Willow Creek and up in the hills around there. And I would one of the job sites was in town in Willow Creek, and I would take my lunch breaks at the museum parking lot.
Oh my God. How awesome is
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, super cool. Some little insight on some of my Bigfootery around Willow Creek.
I was gonna say that
I'm
sounds about
curious.
right.
Yeah, I'm curious, Brown Dwarf, if if you like, what do you think about the like terrain in that area? I'm just curious. And both of you have been to the PG site. I have not. I'm very curious to know what the terrain is like and why you think it's suitable for a Sasquatch.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that you haven't been. Tate, have you not given her the invite? Are you coming next year or what?
I got
I'm
the invite. I'm being forced to come next year, which is not really forcing
Yeah.
because I'm dying to go.
I was like,
Tate, you
Emily, you're
want
going to go. I'll drag you there.
to?
Um so okay, ask that question again one more time.
The
So I was just
terrain.
curious about the terrain. Like, what do you think it is that's, keeping the Sasquatch in that area?
Honestly, it's funny. Every year we go to Bluff Creek, and we always discuss like, okay, why is this time of year better than this time of year? And actually, so a little history about the Bluff Creek area. So if you've done like a deep dive on the Patterson Gimlin film, you will read about the '64 flood that happened. Um, that kind of rerouted where Bluff Creek flows into the Klamath today. So if you ever drive into Bluff Creek or going over Highway 96, you drive right over Bluff Creek where it drains into the Klamath. That's not where it used to drain into. It used to drain further uh, down the road, I think, going towards Wichipeg Glen into the Klamath. So there used to be a salmon run up there, and salmon could get in. But now, because where the creek is flowing into the Klamath, there's a lot of boulders and debris from the flood, and so the salmon can't get up creek anymore. So there's no more salmon runs. I don't know if that really has a big factor in why they may or may not be there. It could, but there's a lot of berries in certain times of the year that are around, and I've eaten a few wild berries hiking Bluff Creek a few times. There's plenty of deer, and I think what it is that draws them there, and they may stay there, It's just how isolated it actually is and harder to get into than people realize. There's roads out there, but there's really steep drop offs on each side of the road. So, I mean, that's my take on it. What do you think, Glenn?
Yeah, no, I think it's just perfect. Those hills are just, no one could find you up there. Food sources are plenty, even though the salmon and a lot of things, Cali has been really dry and stuff, the droughts and everything, and it's been affecting a lot of stuff. And but the Klamath, it has been known for their salmon down there. There's been a lot of reports, sightings down on the Klamath. So they could be down, way down where the river is, or they could be up on those ridge tops anywhere. What's up, Jonathan? Salute, brother. Um,
No, it
and
wasn't.
so and so yeah, you have actually this time around I found chanterelles. I'm big into foraging for mushrooms. Found a bunch of
Dude,
chanterelles, right, Tate?
you found like
And
what, 2 or 3 pounds of mushrooms?
oh yeah, yeah, it
Oh
was
my
amazing.
God.
And so yeah, we had amazing dinners, with chanterelles included. And yeah, there's all types of different edible mushrooms up there, and there's a particular one that the Hoopa people really prize, and it's I don't know if it's the matsutake, but it has a Japanese name, and the Japanese also prize it because it has a phallic shape, and it's supposedly an aphrodisiac as well.
Phallic.
So, and they say that the Bigfoot are known to pick them and eat them as well. So yeah, and then you have the deer. This time around, we've seen a bunch of wildlife. It's like the most amount of wildlife I've seen. We've seen what we call miner's cat or civet cats,
Hmm.
or ringtails. I've seen some of those on the road. Fox, rabbit, and deer, which I would normally wouldn't see. I've seen a bunch of deer, little fawns. And we had recent fires too, so it's good to see this wildlife in the area as well after all that. And you should probably talk about the fires as well, Tate. What else did we see? There's something else that we seen. I mean, there's the stuff that the guys get on game cam. Obviously, the mountain lions, the bear. Yeah, there's always bear poop all around those places. So the bears around. Did have a mama bear sighting with 2 cubs, and then on the way out, we've seen some eagles, and so a
Wow.
lot of wildlife this time around. This year, it rocked.
Yeah, there's a lot of food options in Bluff Creek.
Hmm.
I think people don't think it's active because Bluff Creek is a place where everybody goes. If you're into Bigfoot, anybody who's anybody into Bigfoot goes to Bluff Creek. I'm just gonna flat out say it. And I think because of that, you get a lot of Bigfoot researchers out there doing Bigfoot research things. And I think the Bigfoots in that area are probably just so used to it, they just do not care to respond. Or if they get really bored, they might. I really think it just depends on the Bigfoot that you might be interacting with, because they're all different. They all have their personality. Um, so I don't know. I think that's part of it too. But
Yeah,
it's
I'm
still.
working.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm working on a mapping project right now where I'm basically mapping out some sightings and sort of color coding the Sasquatch on the map, depending on what color the witness describes, gray, brown, black. And it's been really helpful because, you can kind of get to see individual Sasquatches. Like, okay, maybe there's 3 sightings of a gray one within one small area, but probably not 3 gray Sasquatches, probably one being sighted 3 times. So I've been making this map, and I'm working on Pennsylvania right now. And I ended up finding this amazing book all about the historical Sasquatch accounts in Pennsylvania. And these are newspaper clippings from the 1800s. And it's interesting because a lot of the older reports in this area will describe the Sasquatch being really ballsy. They're coming onto people's farms and grabbing their children. They're running and, breaking into people's farmhouses. They're all over people's property, running in plain sight. But then now you have a lot of reports in the same area where they seem to be a little more concealed, a little more hesitant to approach humans. And I wonder if that's because of like guns. Maybe guns became more available to people, and I think they're smart enough to know, when they see a threat. And as we've evolved, we've become maybe more threatening to them. I don't know, but it just seems like the behavior nowadays is a little different than it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of more aggressive and stuff. Kind of reminded me when you were talking about it. Reminded me of the Ruby Creek incident when the Bigfoot basically ransacked these people's house. Um, I don't. Who knows? It's just you never know with these things. I mean, somebody put it. It's like they're kind of like people. They all have their own personality. You might get a crazy one that's just a little more ballsy than the other. I really don't know. It's all fascinating to me, and that's why I love researching the subject.
Yeah,
And
and
Yeah.
they
we,
gotta have different personalities because I mean, even animals have different personalities. So I think that's a given, you know.
yeah, I was it. There's this deer apparently that came. So Beans Camp. Glenn and I were in Bluff Creek area. There's a place called Beans Camp, and we were researching there, doing some night thing. And apparently, there's like this mother deer, and I guess a fawn. It's older than a fawn, but they keep coming around camp. And I think I can't remember what the Ron told me the park ranger said, but this deer has some like thing that people have at camp, and it just comes around, and eats and stuff. It's so weird, but just this deer has a personality. I'm like, no other deer besides these two deer that this park ranger knows are doing this. It's so weird. So it just shows you animals don't really, they have their own agenda even with instinct, if that makes sense.
And going back to uh Bluff Creek again, I do think they're still around there. I just feel like these even this year, the past couple trips, I was able to go up there twice this year, which was amazing. And we spent like what 9 days.
Yeah.
Uh,
9 days. And our last days of the trip were in Nogo Valley.
yeah, so spending that much time there was really good, and yeah, I just certain things happened there, certain feelings I had, and yeah, Damon had some very interesting audio from like the first night I had gotten there when he was there in July, and that was in Alex's recent project, and some of it was Knox, but there was this one particular like vocal sound, and dude, it's like, what is that? It sounds like one of these things, I think, and yeah, so I just feel there's a lot that's happened, but yeah, like you say, a lot of people feel that they say squatched out or whatever, that there's not much going on there, and I just feel like that could also be from people that go there expecting things to happen, and like Bigfoots to jump out, and just because it's Bluff Creek, and but
Yep.
obviously Bigfooting is not like that all the time, and a lot of time it could be very boring and nothing happening, right? So.
Well, even in like the best locations that aren't Bluff Creek, there's probably, I guarantee you, there's places way better than Bluff Creek for activity. But I mean, I keep going to Bluff Creek because it has a special place in my heart, and nothing will ever stop me from going there. Um, but yeah, I just think you can go to places better than Bluff Creek and still get skunked. It's it's a huge forest, and we're just picking one tiny area to hit. Um, that's really just what it comes down to. Whether the both of you guys are in the area at the same time. That's how you get activity. You have to both be there. Um, but we're nearing 35 minutes. We're kind of just doing a short live stream tonight. Any closing remarks, Emily or Glenn?
Emily?
Um, I I feel like the PG film is just iconic, and a lot of people ask me, Emily, why don't we have footage like that anymore? And I mean, I think the simple answer is there's not enough people out looking for Sasquatch, there aren't a lot of us. There's a very small amount of people out there actually looking, and most of us have full-time jobs, and we can't dedicate a month like Roger and Bob to go out and look for this species, right? So I think times were a little different back then, and I think if people like us were funded, and we were able to do this full time, I think there would be more video.
100%. Glenn?
Yeah, that would be great. Some funding, huh? Yeah, no. First of all, I want to say, man, I feel like I'm just getting warmed up. I could go on for hours with you guys. So hopefully we get to do this again. And yeah, hit me up anytime. Yeah. Oh, and then what kind of, bring me back, Tate. We're
Just,
closing up.
just
Yeah. No, I just feel like
closing
we're just
remarks on the PG film.
we're just barely scratching the surface here.
I
Like, I don't
know.
know. Like we could keep going on with this. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we keep it going. I'll be ready next time too, man. This
Yeah.
is really cool. And a pleasure meeting you again, Emily and Tate. Thank you, man. Yeah, let's keep this going, man. Let's try to set this up again and keep diving into this stuff.
Heck yeah. I'll try and do more lives on my YouTube because I want to do it. They're fun. But thank you, Glenn and Emily, for taking the time to do this. Everybody, have a good night until next time later on.